So this particular work, Loki, the doll's house, refers to a lot of things in the show, but its main device is actually to contain all the thoughts in my head, which started off as drawings, which then became artworks. So it's named after a mnemonic device whereby you think about spatial relationships, usually in terms of buildings and familiar layouts and routes that you take. So a little bit like situationist mapping, really. I really connect with buildings, and they are a very important part of my life, and I often use Mind Palace to go and escape to places. And as a child, when I was staying with grandparents, when we were living with my grandparents, my grandfather had started a doll's house, making a doll's house, which was just a very bare white building, which only had light bulbs and light switches. So there's actually a piece in the exhibition, another artwork that I made, a sculpture called It Has Real Light Switches. And I was fascinated with them. They were little Baker-like light switches that you could flick on and off. There were real bulbs that would come on and off. And he never completed it. It was never finished. I never got to play with it. I used to go out into the outhouse when I was feeling sad, and I would look at this building and wander around and imagine what would happen in it, probably as a coping mechanism for everything else that was going on in my life at the time. So I've always had a little bit of a soft spot for dolls' houses, even though I wasn't really a kid who played with dolls. I was a real tomboy. I was more interested in my Action Man than a Barbie. But that's another story. So with this particular doll's house, this sort of presented itself in my life about a month before the exhibition. It turned up. And once it was sourced, it just made sense. I was like, that's exactly what's going to house all my drawings. So in here are all the drawings from the exhibition, but also a couple which I've yet to make. So if you lift the lid, you can see the crushed drawings. So here we've got, you can probably see the feathers, which came across over the coffee table. And inside, so everything's been taken out from inside, other than clocks. There's 2 clocks, and a funny picture on the wall, which is so absurd, it makes complete sense that it stays there. It was one of the things that I felt needed to be left in to really represent me and my kooky sense of humour. And the light really is just sort of mimic that notion of something being alive and vivid and vital, and the connections and synapses of your brain, but also from the outside it has an appearance of it almost like fire, but it's a cool light, so the lights are very, very blue and cool. The outside's painted in flamingo pink, which, like myself, is quite camp, so I thought it was very apt. And it's become quite a central piece in the exhibition and really represents my head. It contains everything, but also it houses everything, literally, but also keeps it safe. So it's the perfect metaphor for the project.